welcome back everyone to the latest episode of An American in Thailand, airing every Friday. This program is broadcast to you from Ratchabakon, University of Technology, Peranakan. This program will come to you in two parts. For the first part, I'll introduce a certain topic about being an American living here in Thailand. Could be about food, travel, culture, politics, current events, anything we want to talk about. We'll then take a break, and in the second part of the program, we'll get into examples, details, more specifics of whatever our topic is. All right, let's get to the program. Welcome everyone, my name is Gary Gray, and I am an American English teacher here at Ratchabakon, University of Technology, Peranakan. I have been teaching here for about 9 years, so I've been here quite a long time. So I've got a pretty good feel for the Thai culture. I've traveled around a lot here in Thailand. Got a pretty good idea of the country. Takes a long time to learn everything. I'm still learning new things every day here in Thailand, but I think I have enough of an idea to speak on some of the differences between America and Thailand. And so that's why I'm doing this program. I want to maybe inform some of our Thai folks out there who are trying to learn English. That's why you're listening to an English program. What some of the differences are between here in Thailand and Western culture, specifically American culture. Not all the time will this be broadly Western culture. For example, in today's episode, I think what we're going to talk about mostly would apply to a lot of Western culture, but certainly not all of it. Not all of it. Okay, so the last couple of weeks we've been talking about current events, and I do think that's important. We're broadcasting this on the middle of March of 2026, and we have the war going on in Iran, and even though that's U.S., Israel, Thailand's not involved, it really can affect everyone. For example, gas prices are starting to rise. There hasn't been much movement. I just checked before we went on the air. The price of gas here in Thailand, it's gone up a little bit, but has not changed too much. But in a lot of the world, it's gone up quite a lot. Gasohol, as we call it here in Thailand. Gasoline, we call it in the United States. But the prices have gone up quite a bit in the United States and in many parts of the world. So we'll see what happens here in Thailand, but that could affect the economy as gas prices rise. So it's an important topic to talk about, but I want to talk about something a little bit lighter today, something a little more fun and interesting. Those topics are kind of boring, or maybe not boring, because like I said, they're important, but not things a lot of people want to talk about. So today, we're going to talk about cooking. Well, we've talked about food and even cooking on here before. But what I want to talk about specifically here is some of the differences in the ingredients we tend to use between Thai cooking and American cooking. Now, before we even start this, I want to point out that almost all of these ingredients are available and used in both places. Thailand and probably across most of Southeast Asia, almost all of these ingredients are available. In America, we have a wide variety of foods there. All of these ingredients are available. So I'm not saying that you can't get these ingredients. I'm not saying they aren't used in some of the foods you might eat in one of the country or the other, depending on which one we're talking about. For example, if we're talking about ingredients used more often in Thai food, I'm not saying that Americans would never use that. It's available. The reason it's available is because some people want to use it. So people will use it. So I want to make that clear, because when I say that something is more common in Thai cooking, I don't know that we're going to have any Americans listening to this program since we're broadcasting in Thailand, but someone might run across it on YouTube. I don't want them saying, "Oh, come on, we use that all the time here in the U.S. Same thing when I mention some things that are used in American cooking. I don't want the Thai listeners here to say, "Oh, we use that a lot here too." Believe me, you don't use it as much as the other country uses it. I have lived here long enough to see what is being used in the cooking here in Thailand. And before I moved to Thailand, I spent my entire life in America. So clearly I know what they use in their cooking. And I've lived in many different places in the U.S. I haven't lived out west. I have traveled out there a few times, but I haven't lived out west. But north, south, I've lived in them both. So I am quite familiar with all of the cooking across the U.S. So trust me when I say that these items are used more or less in each country. But again, I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that they are not used at all. Clearly they are. All right. All of these are. I mean, they're all available. I mean, I cook a lot myself, which is another reason why I'm very familiar with this subject and can speak on this. I cook almost every day. And I can tell you that every item that I'm going to tell you is more common in American cooking. They are almost all available here. There are very few items that I cannot find here. Very few. There are a few, especially when it comes to things like herbs and spices. In fact, I just had a friend of mine back in the United States send along some herbs and spices to me that are either hard to find here or expensive to find here. All right, so let's start with Thai cooking and things that are not used as much in American cooking. But again, certainly available. These are all available. All right, so fish sauce and oyster sauce. People in Thailand use that all the time. In America, I can honestly say I have not once in my life cooking there used fish sauce or oyster sauce, nor do I know anyone that ever has. I'm sure when I've gone into an authentic Asian restaurant, they may have used it. I'm sure. But I don't know anyone that's ever cooked with it. I have never cooked with it. And like I said, I do a lot of cooking. Never cooked with it in the U.S. I rarely cook with it here either because I don't really like it. But sometimes my partner wants fish sauce or oyster sauce in his food, so I'll put it in there. We don't even use soy sauce as often in America as is used here in Thailand, but it is actually a little more common really in Japan. So it's not used tremendously here in Thailand either, so I wouldn't put that on the list because we both use it quite a lot, but not quite as much as where it came from. So soy sauce is pretty common. It's pretty common and pretty even in both countries. But fish sauce and oyster sauce, much more common here in Thailand. One that I think this one might get some people in America to say, oh, come on, we use that all the time. But really, not as much as any Asian country does, and that is ginger. Ginger is used a lot more in Asian cooking, including here in Thailand. Now, I will say that it is used more in some other Asian countries than it is in Thailand, so there's probably not a huge difference there between Thailand and the U.S. as far as the use of ginger. Ginger's used plenty in American cooking. There's plenty of ginger there. It's just used a little less. And in fact, in some specific areas, it might actually be used more in American cooking. Like for sweet items. You would never think of ginger being in something sweet here in Thailand, except maybe some ginger candies or something. But they actually make cookies with ginger flavor in it. So, again, that one's not a big difference, but it is used a little bit more here in Thailand. Cilantro is another one where not a big difference because it's used in plenty of dishes in America. But I will say that the dishes in America it's used in are more, they seem more specific to a certain cultural area, and that is dishes that we have adopted from Mexico tend to be where cilantro is used more often in American cooking. Whereas here in Thailand, cilantro is used much more widespread. It's used in a lot of different things. So this is going to be another one where if an American were to listen to this program, he'd say, "Oh, come on, we use cilantro a lot here." Yeah, compared to Thailand, no way. No way. Like, you can't walk into a 7-Eleven in America and find cilantro. I mean, any supermarket's going to have it, sure, but not a 7-Eleven. Whereas 7-Eleven here has cilantro in it. Usually, a lot of them. Some of them have no produce because they're too small. But the ones that have produce, they usually have cilantro along with the green onions in one package together. So that's another thing that's more common here in Thailand. Another thing that's more common, sort of. I have to say sort of because it's very popular in America, but not in the sense that it is here. And that is chili peppers. So chili peppers are quite common in America. Quite common. But they're usually used in a limited number of foods. Whereas here in Thailand, they're used in a lot of different foods. From tom yum to la mu. I mean, they're used in just lots and lots and lots and lots of different types of foods. Papaya salad, just lots of different things. Also, the type of chili peppers we use. We use Thai bird peppers here in Thailand. And I think this might surprise a lot of people, since a lot of Americans kind of brag about like their hot sauce and eating hot stuff. Thai bird peppers are hotter than most of the peppers they use in American cooking. Not all of them. Not all of them. There are some extreme peppers you can get in, and extreme hot sauces and things like that you can get in America. But Thai bird peppers are generally hotter than most of the peppers they use in American cooking. So here in Thailand, we use the chili peppers more, and we use them hotter. Now, I just mentioned papaya salad. Papaya is another thing. You can get papaya in America. Sure. You can get almost anything in America. Papaya salad? I'm sure Thai restaurants carry it. I can honestly tell you, I've never seen it once in my life in America. Well, maybe I saw it while I was at a Thai restaurant. Someone else was eating it, and I just didn't think about it. But I've never witnessed anyone eating papaya salad in the United States. So papaya is another thing we don't use very often. We might use it for other things, so we do have it. It's not like you can never find papaya in America, but it's not used very much. And the last item, and there, by the way, this is a short list. There are many other things I could mention. But the last item, this is just things I thought of off the top of my head. So the last item I have is galangal, which of course we use here in tom yum. And I'm sure we use it in some other things. That's what I'm most familiar with it from, because I do like to make tom yum. Galangal, this is another one that I've honestly never seen used in American cooking. I will say that when I visited home, back home in the U.S., several years ago, I did look to see if they actually even carry it, because I had never even heard of it until I moved here to Thailand. It is available. You can get it. You can get almost anything in America. And that's what I mean when I said in the introduction here that, all this stuff's available. It's just not used as much. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying, oh, no one uses fish sauce or galangal or chili peppers in American cooking. Of course they do, especially the chili peppers. Of course they do. It's used less. It's used less. All right, and so you're going to see the same thing here with the American cooking. And what they use, which we don't use as often here in Thailand, it's still stuff we use, just not as often. And so the first thing is tomato sauce. Of course we use tomato sauce. It's on pizza. Some people like to eat spaghetti, although some people here in Thailand put ketchup on their spaghetti, which is not really tomato sauce. So that doesn't really count. But, yeah, of course we have tomato sauce here. But it is used a lot in America because they love Italian foods, which a lot of Italian foods have tomato sauce on them. They might also have cheese on them, and so might a lot of Mexican dishes. That's another food that's not as common here in Thailand. And when I say it's not as common, again, it's available. You go to Top's supermarket, they got a whole section there on cheese. It's usually quite expensive, though, because it's all imported. It's just not used as much. So I say that again. I want to repeat that again. We're not saying that none of these items are used at all, but they're not used very often in Thai cooking, especially when you're thinking of traditional Thai cooking. In fact, I don't know a single traditional Thai dish that has cheese in it. Surely there has to be one, something. I don't know. There's got to be something that has cheese in it, but I don't know of a single one. It's never used. Okay, beef. Beef is it's just a little harder to come by here in Thailand. There is Thai beef, and it's very affordable. It's fairly inexpensive. Sometimes it's just hard to find. Like sometimes when I go to Tops, they don't even have Thai beef there. They only have the imported beef, because beef is much more common in Australia, also in America. In parts of Europe, it's quite common. South America, it's very common. So beef is just more common there. So once again, I'm not saying you can't get it here. It's either more expensive, it's not easy to get, it's one or the other, and so it's not used very often in Thai cooking. For example, lard. Lard, I've heard of lard cooked with chicken. I've heard it cooked with fish. I've heard it cooked with pork. I've never heard of beef lard. I'm not sure what beef is in Thai. I know pork is moo. So moo lard, I'm not sure what beef lard is. I'm not sure how you say that in Thai, but I've never heard of it. And there's no reason other than it's not common to do it that way. There's no reason. It would taste, when you mince it up, beef and pork actually taste quite similar. And so with minced beef, it would taste almost the same as moo lard. So, not really any different. We just don't do it here in Thailand. So again, it's not that you can't find it. It's easy to find. Every Tops. You can go to Tops, and every Tops in the country will have beef that you can buy. Just not used very commonly in Thai cooking. It's probably mostly Westerners like me buying it at the store. Okay? Also in America, we have more seafood varieties. That might surprise you, because seafood is quite popular here in Thailand. But almost everything we have here in Thailand is also quite common in the United States. Maybe not the cuttlefish. That's one thing that most American people would not like to eat. But it's available. But again, we're talking about things that are pretty common. Two of the biggest examples I can think of is lobster. Because I think it's hard to get like warm water lobster. I know they exist, and I know there's a similar creature they sell at some of the beaches here in Thailand, but it's not like true lobster. And in fact, there's a restaurant near me that's here in Thailand that does sell lobster, and it is in fact imported from the United States, and it's very expensive. I've ordered it once or twice just because I really wanted to, but it's really expensive. And it's imported from America. Yeah. So lobster, like real, true lobster, very hard to find here, very expensive. Clams even. Now you might say to yourself, no, we have clams. You don't have what I would consider to be the best kind of clams, because they're more versatile. They're bigger than the clams you have here, but not as big as mussels. So they're good for something that we would call a clam boil back in America. Or they're good for putting into clam chowder, which is something that's very popular in America. You don't have the right variety of clam for that. All the clams we have here are very small, or you can go very large up to the size of mussels. I mean, you could chop up the mussels and use that for your clam chowder instead of actual clams, I guess, but it's still not exactly the same thing. There's just more variety. There's a lot more variety. There's more varieties of fish as well in America, so there's a lot more seafood. A lot more seafood varieties. I don't know that we necessarily eat more seafood in America, but there's certainly more varieties. All right, and then the last item on my list, I can actually think of more, but this first part of our program is taking a long time, so we got to move along here. The last item is things using milk. Now, we have milk here, obviously. We have milk. We have ice cream, which uses milk. But there's a lot of other stuff that we make with milk in America that isn't very common here. Like we have foods with cream sauces, like pasta with a cream sauce, which is made from milk. There are biscuits and gravy. The gravy is kind of a milk-based sauce. For dessert, we have something called pudding or mousse, which is like a thicker version of it, which is made with milk. We use milk for a lot more things in America. And that makes sense just because of history and tradition. In fact, many people in Asia probably still are lactose intolerant. That's an element in milk which makes your stomach upset, whereas most people in the West are not. Some people are. I kind of am, actually, a little bit. Not too badly. I can drink milk, but sometimes it upsets my stomach. And that's because the drinking of milk really started in the West. I think it was in Europe, I believe. That's kind of where it started, and so we've been using milk a lot longer, and with many different things that we make with it. So it's much more common in Western cooking, including America. All right, so that's my list for things that are more common in American cooking. So in the second part of our program, we're going to talk about which one's better, because those are some interesting differences. So which one's better? All right, so let's take a quick break right now. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so we're talking about food, specifically ingredients we cook with, and we're talking about differences between Thai and American cooking. So, which one's better? The Thai ingredients or the American ingredients? Well, as usual, I'm not actually going to tell you which one's better. We all have different tastes, so it doesn't really matter what my opinion is. But there are two things I think we can say specifically that are objectively better about each country's ingredients and their food. So there's one thing for each country. So for Thailand, I think the advantage is that it's healthier. There's a lot more cooking with vegetables, less meat, less red meat like beef. We mentioned beef as one of the items. So people eat more fruit as well. There's a wider variety of fruit here. Now, I didn't include that in the ingredients in the first part of the program because we don't often cook with that. But it's still an advantage within the food. It still does make the whole food system, all the stuff you eat, a little more healthy here in Thailand. So the Thai food is just healthier. I'm not saying there's not a lot of unhealthy stuff. We have all of the bad stuff here that they have in America. You go to 7-Eleven, you can buy potato chips, ice cream, candy, all that stuff that's not good for you, but tastes really good. So probably most of us still eat it sometimes. That stuff is still all available in 7-Eleven. But mostly speaking, people eat healthier here in Thailand. They're eating a lot more vegetables as part of and fruit as part of their diet. And we are speaking generally. I know plenty of people here that eat terribly. I know plenty of people back in America that eat healthy. Because you can. Again, all of these foods, the good foods and the bad foods, are all available in both countries. It's just that certain types of foods are eaten more often in each country. And in Thailand, there's more of a leaning towards these healthier foods. Okay? Now, the benefit for America is that in America, there's more variety due to all of the various cultures coming together. I'll give you an example. Even though I mentioned cilantro as something that you eat in Thailand that we don't eat as often in America, I think some Americans would say that's not exactly true because we eat that quite a bit in America. We do. I would still say we eat it a lot less than in Thailand. But that mostly came to us kind of from Mexico. From Mexican food. That's where that's most common. And we have a lot of Mexican food in America. We have the use of cheese, for example. I mentioned cheese. That's an item we use a lot more in America than you do here in Thailand. While we do produce our own cheese in America as well, upper Midwest part of the country, like Wisconsin, Minnesota, that area is pretty big for cheese, especially Wisconsin. But a lot of that gets imported. And a lot of it comes from Italy, France, Mexico, and other areas. My favorite cheese, for example, is a Spanish variety. We just have a lot of different cultures that have come together in the United States, and they bring their foods with them. And so we have all of these different foods from all over the world. I also mentioned beef. I mentioned that in the section of why Thailand is good, because beef isn't really healthy for you. So it's good that Thailand doesn't eat as much beef, but it is nice to have that option, right? And so that's more available in America as well. As I mentioned, it is available here in Thailand. Every store has it. It's just either less available or more expensive if you have to buy the imported. And in America, they have a lot of their own cattle, so it's mostly not imported. They do certainly import some. In fact, that was a big deal in America just within the last year, but mostly they have their own. Okay, so again, you can certainly get it here, but it's either difficult or imported. And it's, like I said, not very good for you, but it's another option. So it's just another thing of having more variety. And I also mentioned in the first half of the program, there are more seafood options as well, more variety there as well. So there are just many more choices in American cooking. You can get really a lot more creative. So there you have it. I'm not really going to tell you that either one is better. It depends on what you want in your cooking experience. If you enjoy making healthier options, Thailand is probably better for you. They also use a lot more like herbs and spices, and they're going to be fresh. Like you chop up the galangal or you chop up the ginger. They're not going to use powders as much. Those all have good health benefits as well. Not just using more vegetables, but also using more of those. So Thailand's going to be better for you if you're cooking for healthy options rather than going and eating out at McDonald's. You want to be healthy. So the Thai ingredients are going to be better for you. But if you enjoy the creativity aspect of cooking, like all the different varieties you can cook, then using American ingredients is going to be your choice because there's just more options. Now, I will again say it for the millionth time. To be clear, you can get almost all the ingredients we discussed in both countries. So you can do that creativity here in Thailand just because it's American ingredients. And of course, you can combine American ingredients with Thai ingredients and make up your own stuff. That's what's fun about cooking. You can do whatever you want. So you can mix them together. And in fact, I do that sometimes. All I'm saying is that traditionally, at least, certain ingredients are used more in one country than the other. And so it creates this difference where you have more healthy options in Thailand and more variety in America. Okay? But again, everything is still available. Everything's available. I use cheese as another example, as going back to the cheese as an example. Every supermarket has it, and they have quite a few varieties of it. But it's really expensive compared to cheese in America. So it's cheaper to stick with the local food. And that's going to be healthier. Because cheese also isn't terribly healthy. It's not horrible for you, because it kind of has milk and things like that, and it's not terrible. But, a lot of fat, too. So you don't want to eat a lot of it. It's not great for you. So stick with the Thai food, Thai ingredients, and it'll be a more healthy option. Start introducing all of these other choices from American cooking, and you have more options. But as I said, all of these ingredients are available in both countries. Well, for the most part. I should say that I mentioned clams as one of the seafood options in America. The type of clam, the specific type of clam you would want to use, I honestly have never found that here in Thailand. Lobster is very hard to find, but you can find it. It's fairly easy to find frozen lobster at a supermarket. But the clams, I honestly have never found. Not even frozen. Haven't found clams here. I mean, you can find clams here in Thailand, just not the right variety to cook these certain types of foods that are an American variety food that you may want to cook. You cannot find those here. But just about everything else. I have seen every one of these items that I mentioned that we use in Thailand. When I go back home to America, I've seen every one of these items that I mentioned in the first half of the program. I've lived here for 9 years, but I still like to cook mostly American style. All of these American items that we cook with, we have here, except for those clams. So you can find any of these ingredients in either country for the most part. All I'm talking about is kind of the differences in sort of the traditional cooking. I'm not saying you can't use these ingredients, like these Thai ingredients. I'm not saying you can't find them or use them in America. You absolutely can. These American ingredients, I'm not saying you can't find them or use them in Thai cooking. You can find them easily here in Thailand, and you can cook with them. I do it almost every day because I prefer to cook Western style food, and I cook almost every day. So I'm using this stuff every single day. All right, so I'm not saying you can't get them. I'm saying what are the differences kind of in the ingredients we use traditionally in our cooking. Okay, so that is it for today's episode on cooking Thailand versus America. All right, so thank you for joining us for today's episode of An American in Thailand. Let me reach out to any young people out there who might be considering heading off to university in the next year or two. Please consider our wonderful university here, Ratchamakon University of Technology, Peranakan. All right, please stay with us and tune back in next week for another interesting episode. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.